Greetings, all you Jacks and Janets out there, and thank you for tuning into your daily dose of donkey with Ginger. It's your boy, the Viking Donkey, coming to you solo. I'm coming on very late tonight because, well, some personal things are going on, making things a little crazy in my life right now, a little hectic stuff going on. But we're here to bring you sports talk. Opening week of the NFL season. We already have a game in the book. You got to see Tom Brady win because they let Tom Brady have the ball last, which just isn't fair because you know what was going to happen. Good try, Dallas. And, well, Brady doing what Brady does is what you expect to see. But more importantly, this week's going to be a quick episode. I have some things going on, and I just want to give a little bit of a breakdown of the Steelers Buffalo Bills game. Everyone knows that's what's most important here. That's what's most talked about on Donk Nation stuff is anything involving the Pittsburgh Steelers. So this week we open at Buffalo, first game of the year. We've talked about the Steelers. We talked about what we see out there. To me, big X factors for the Steelers are going to be, can the offensive line give enough push to let Najee Harris have a day? And while I believe Chase Claypool develops into a number one receiver, which is big because the Steelers don't currently have one, when does that start? I feel like it's more going to be mid-season to end of the season he starts to really develop into that role. Can he get it going in week one against a pretty good Buffalo Bills secondary, especially when you're talking about going up against guys like Tre'Davious White, who might be one of the best corners in the league? It's going to be a good chance for Claypool to show where he really is, to show what he can do, and I'm, for one, very interested to see how it goes. But let's get more into breaking down the Bills since we already know what we talked about with the Steelers. Is Ben going to be able to take it? Can this defense, when it's missing Tuitt, play? Will Highsmith be able to stay healthy as he seemed to give himself a little bit of a groin injury that he worked through the week, but he always seemed to be nicked up last year, so let's hope that's not just a common theme that's continuing from last season to this. Let's hope he can play through. Can the rotation pieces get going, and can the secondary be as good as it was last year? All things we're going to see play out in week one as we're going up against Buffalo, who has maybe not the greatest receiving core, but maybe the best receiver in the league in Stephon Diggs. And that's where it has to start. Can the Steelers stop a speedy receiver like Stephon Diggs? We struggled with him in the past. Last year with Buffalo, we struggled getting with him. I mean, Josh Allen's the type of quarterback maybe we could get to. Is this going to be the Josh Allen of the first 3 years that completed 56% of his passes? Or is this going to be Josh Allen who is like 70% completion, mega deal, MVP candidate quarterback? We'll get to see early season, see what kind of one he is. Mobile quarterbacks tend to hurt the Steelers from time to time, and speedy receivers hurt the Steelers from time to time, and Stephon Diggs. You have Dawson Knox out there playing tight ends, not a bad one. Again, Steelers' weakness in covering tight ends and running backs out of the backfield, which this year, Buffalo is going to be a little deeper, as I think we played them when Zach Moss was hurt. So Zach Moss is back. They still have Devin Singletary. That's a couple pretty good backs right there to start with. But they went out and they added guys like Reggie Gallman, Dwayne Jones, and Matt Breida, who could be a huge pickup. Played for San Francisco for a while. Could be a huge pickup with the way he can catch the ball out of the backfield and be a really huge part in the passing game. And going against the Steelers, that's a weakness the Steelers have had before, is covering people in the passing game. So are the Steelers able to step up, cover these guys, stop these guys? I really think they're going to struggle this week. I think the new pieces are going to show a little bit of weakness. And I think we get a little lucky, too, because Emmanuel Sanders won't be playing in this game. Also, on the defensive side, we get a huge break with Star Lotulelei not going to be clogging up the middle there in Buffalo, defensive tackle. He's hurt. I'm pretty sure he's going to miss the game. So Star Lotulelei not playing there for Buffalo gives us the opportunity to maybe run the ball a little more effectively up the middle. We'll see. As we know, Zach Banner's out for us. Dan Moore's going to start there. Kendrick Green had a little bit of a thumb thing, but it seems like he's okay from it. Hopefully it's not a big injury because he had trouble snapping the ball in the preseason, and last thing you need to do is hurt your thumb there. When you look at the linebacking core, I feel like it's very average outside of Tremaine Edmonds, who has elite upside. I feel like the rest of the linebacking core in Buffalo is very average. I mean, that's a spot we could take advantage of with the two tight end sets with Ebron and Freiermuth. I feel that the Steelers are going to have success. That's where it's going to come from. It's the running game maybe being able to push with Najee, and the tight ends being able to create open opportunities for themselves. The Steelers are going to win. I feel that's the area they need to, because going into the secondary, that's where it's stronger, and mainly because you just don't want to try Tre'Davious White. Guy is good, to say the least. And I don't know. I feel like going into Buffalo being the team it is, Josh Allen trying to prove he's worth every dollar he signed to, I feel like this just isn't the week for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And since we don't have actual games to talk about from last week, or we don't have the stats going in for other teams, there's not really a huge breakdown. We can look at what Buffalo did to us last year, know that there's new players coming in, there's players who aren't going to be there. We can have a little talk, but I don't think there's too much to break down a week one game coming off a preseason where no one plays any of their players. This is the first game we get to see what is going to be the Pittsburgh Steelers. Are the weaknesses we had before going to be exacerbated, or are they going to be fixed? Is the team going to be able to run the football? Is someone going to step up and be a number one receiver? Are we going to stop dropping the football? Can Ben push the ball down the field? This is when the rubber meets the road, so to say. This is when we get to find out all that. And, hey, I, for one, am very excited for the start of the season. Also, I know I shouldn't be saying this because it's Baltimore and them getting hurt helps us, but condolences for losing 3 running backs before the first week of the season. I mean, that's crazy. And they're bringing in Latavius Murray, Le'Veon Bell. I mean, why not just sign Todd Gurley and have 3 of the top 10 backs from the 2017 season? Let's just stack them all on one team and see if one of the guys who 4 years ago was great can be great again for you. That seems to be their motto, but who knows if they even need any type of running back with Lamar Jackson there. We'll see. I mean, losing 3 is definitely going to hurt. They lost 2 players in, I think, a minute of each other when Marcus Peters also tore his ACL. Also, Baltimore, go get yourself a new practice field, because when you're tearing that many ACLs in practice, you need to do something different. But hey, like I said before, the Steelers are building themselves to be the 8-8 type of team that, if injuries happen to other teams, could take advantage and start winning games. And injuries are happening, and they're not happening to Pittsburgh. So let's knock on wood. Let's keep healthy for the most part. I mean, I know we did lose a couple starters. I'm not forgetting Zach Banner was hurt from last year. Let's not forget that was a last year injury. And Stephon Tuitt sounds like was an off-season last year injury as well, or mental health break, depending on who you're talking to. I don't know. There's like 8 different things that are going on with Tuitt, and no one seems to really tell us the true story, unless I missed it. So let's just stay relatively healthy. Let's get into Buffalo. Let's put a good foot forward and get a win. But I'm feeling this one, I don't know. I feel like it's a Buffalo by a touchdown win, somewhere in like the 25 to 31 range for Buffalo, with the Steelers lagging 7 behind. I feel Ben plays to where he gives you, hey, that wasn't the bad play. Hey, there's a couple good deep passes in there. And, gives you the hope that the season can get going. Because that's what we need. We need to see it. Even if it's a loss, there are certain things every Steeler fan knows we need to see. We need this offensive line to create a little bit of a push, and we need to see Ben be able to be accurate with the deep ball, not the 27th most accurate quarterback in the NFL and throws over 20 yards. That's unacceptable. Ben's strength is throwing the ball down the field over his whole career. If he can't do that now, that's alarming for the Steelers. I'm not going to read too much into single season noise, but older quarterbacks do tend to digress. While Ben's numbers last year were plenty fine, the downfield passing was literally falling off a cliff compared to the last full season he played. He needs to take a step forward in that. I think we need to see that. Even if this game is a loss, it's not a division game. It is a conference game, but it's not a division game, so it's not the biggest deal. We need to see at least the positives going forward. And this being a 17-game season, you might as well just consider this the tune-up game. Week 1, unless you're playing a division game, doesn't really matter in the grand scheme. Sure, you can be like, well, home field playoffs through, blah, 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 blah. Home field doesn't matter in the playoffs. We've seen it in Pittsburgh the last decade. So, let's go. Let's get it going. Let's start waving them towels. I know it's going to be hard to outdo Bills Mafia in Buffalo, but I'd love to see the Steelers faithful show up, and show up loud, show up proud. Let's get it going. I'm hoping for a W. Like I said, I feel like it's a Buffalo by a touchdown game, but I am really hoping for the W. I hope everybody shows up. I hope the offensive line gives the holes necessary for, let's say, a 200-yard, 2-touchdown Najee debut to get everybody happy. I still don't like first-round draft pick running backs, but hey, it's what we did. I think he's a good player. I'm going to root for him hard, and I hope it's a 200-yard, 2-touchdown thing to get it going. Even if it's in a loss, see the positive signs. Hell, let's see the positive signs and see the wins. So that's going to bring me to shout-outs, and this week I'm not sure it's so much of a shout-out as a somber moment. It's a moment of remembrance. 20th anniversary of 9/11, and I know for my generation, and I know for me personally, it was a moment in American history where a lot of us got our first view, our first introduction, our first sight of what is just absolute true evil. And everybody has to take a moment on days like this to remember what it is to be an American, what it is to love all the people around you, to treat your neighbors like their family, to be American first. And that was the moment that everyone felt that way. Everyone was that way. And the weeks that followed showed how strong you can be when everyone comes together. So we have to take a moment to remember all of those families who've had tragedy because of 9/11. All the families that got touched because of 9/11. Whether it was through any of the planes, any of the buildings, any of the crashes, any of the secondary infections that came through, any of the first responders who ran in, any of the soldiers who subsequently went to fight those battles on the terrorists who brought the evils into our country. Anyone who's had a family, a friend, a life that's been affected by 9/11. I have to give a shout out to all of those who've had their lives affected, keep pushing on, and to all of those who, whether willingly or not, had to give the ultimate sacrifice because of some terrible acts by people. All we can do is never forget them, always remember them, and always strive to make ourselves a better edition of who we are, because we know what evil can do, and we know that good can, in fact, triumph even in bad circumstances. So with that, I have to give a shout out to anything involving, surrounded to 9/11 tragedy. For that is all we have. You know where to reach me. Viking Donkey on Twitch and Twitter. Viking_Donkey. Well, actually, it's Viking_Donkey on Twitch or Twitter. Apparently, I can't remember my own stuff. It's Viking Donkey on the Xbox. Your daily dose of Donkey with Ginger. Go ahead, leave us a comment on the YouTube. Tell us if you want us to talk about anything, if you want to join in the show. And, hey, Steeler Nation, week 1. It's time to wave them if you got them, baby. And here we go, Steelers.